Hi, everybody. You are a unique individual with the power to change lives just by being who you are, sharing your wisdom, and telling your story. Welcome to Jen's Pen Live, where we find interesting people who make the world a better place and ask them to share their story and their lessons learned. Today, we are speaking with Dane Dormio. Dane is a mind-body mastery mentor. So Dane, welcome to the show. Can't really hear you.
Hey Jen, glad to see you. Glad to be here and glad to talk about some of my favorite topics.
Excellent. I'm so excited to hear. We spoke a little bit already, but I'm excited to share what you do with the world. So tell us what you do.
I'm a martial artist and mind-body mastery mentor, which means that I help people to optimize their mind, body, life, energy system as a whole and develop effortless self-discipline in all areas of life.
That's pretty impressive. I'm excited about that. I apologize right now. I had to kind of sneak out of the house. It wasn't a great place to do this from, so I'm actually at a cafe right now. So I apologize for the background noise. So tell us a little bit about how you got to what you do now. It's a very specific thing, and I want to hear more about that.
Well, the work that I do now, I have been led to through a series of spiritual awakenings that have illuminated my path.
Excellent. Can you tell us about those?
Well, how much time you got?
We got a little while.
I guess I can describe it in terms of internal and external, because this is an important theme in my work, and it's also a very important philosophical theme at large, the concept of internal and external. And for those listeners who are familiar with integral theory, the four quadrants are divided into internal, external, singular, and plural. So this maps to integral theory as well. But one of the awakenings that I had was a physical awakening, and one was a mental awakening. And there were actually quite different experiences and brought about by very different circumstances, but there was a commonality, which was that I accidentally or spontaneously discovered a new mode of being that had been there all along, parallel to my previous way of being, but I'd been completely unaware of it. The first one was a body awakening, and they both have internal and external aspects, but for purposes what I'm going to talk about, the body corresponds to the internal and the mind corresponds to the external. It might sound backwards, but I think it'll make sense as I go along. And the first experience was triggered by when I first started practicing internal martial arts, and the internal and external distinction is also a thing in martial arts as well. And for those who aren't familiar, what most of us think of as martial arts are what would be classified as external martial arts, meaning that the emphasis is on physical fitness, jumping around, kicking high, overcoming strengths with strengths, being bigger, faster, stronger, that sort of thing. Internal martial arts, which are relatively few and less well known, emphasize cultivating a meditative state of awareness and paying attention to sensations and breath and what's happening inside the body. And the focus is on cultivating sensitivity and finesse and soft power. And the way that I came to this experience was through no intention of my own. I guess I have to back up a little bit to start. I grew up as a rational, materialistic atheist in the Bible Belt with no concept of spiritual consciousness whatsoever. And
must have been a hard way to grow up.
well, we all have our challenges, I guess. I was also into martial arts from a very young age, largely due to the influence of the Ninja Turtles.
That was a good show.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be a Ninja Turtle, right?
Certainly. I certainly don't know anybody who doesn't.
So I went to a special high school, for a magnet school for math and science. And got kicked out. I studied math and physics in college. And I went to a small private liberal arts school where you have to study some of everything. So the religion elective that I chose was a course in Buddhism, which I was always interested in cool old stories. Like I'd always been into the Greek myths, and I'd found and read the Panchatantra and the Tao Te Ching when I was growing up. So to me, it was just a bunch of cool old stories, and didn't, including the one about Siddhartha Gautama sitting under the Bodhi tree and having the Satori, the instantaneous awakening experience, and then arising as the Buddha, the awakened one. And it didn't mean much to me at the time, just a bunch of cool old stories and intellectual exercises.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I graduated from college, I moved to Southern California for graduate school in physics. And I started looking for new martial arts schools.
Cool.
Because I'd been doing martial arts since I was 10. When I was 10, my parents decided I was so into martial arts, they better sign me up for something. So they took me to the local Taekwondo chain school. It was the kind of place where I went to regular testing every 2 months. I started at age 10, had a black belt at age 12, a second degree black belt at age 14. And then after that, I started branching out into other things. And the first 12 years, I studied all different types of external martial arts. Korean, Brazilian, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. And something that did for me was certainly, it got me in really good shape. I could do a lot of cool tricks and stunts. I could do all kinds of cool things with my body. But
right.
Deep down, at the time, I actually couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper bag. And deep down, on some level, I knew it, which is part of the reason that I was so driven to train. Because I knew, even though I could do cool tricks and stuff, I really didn't have fundamental control of my body. And if somebody bigger and stronger than me wanted to hurt me, I wouldn't be able to stop them.
Really, after all that training?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because I wasn't training for what I thought I would. This is a whole tangent about martial arts, but martial arts and self-defense are two different things. And the vast majority of martial arts training is not effective for self-defense.
Okay.
Leave it at that for now.
Okay.
So I was in a new town looking for new martial arts schools, and I saw a place called the Kung Fu Academy, and I thought, well, I'll check that out. It'll be something new, because Kung Fu is not a martial art. People think Kung Fu is a martial art, but it's not. It literally means hard work, or it literally means skill developed through hard work for a long time. That's the literal translation, but it's used to refer to specifically martial arts skill. So Kung Fu and martial arts. So all Chinese martial arts are called Kung Fu. Kung Fu just means Chinese martial arts. It's not a single style. There's thousands of Kung Fu styles. So if somebody says, "Do you know Kung Fu?" It's like, which style? It just means martial arts, Chinese martial arts.
Okay.
So I figured it would be something new and different. And it turns out that this was a school that taught internal martial arts, largely based in the Tai Chi classics, which is a body of writings. It's a few hundred years old that contains the principles of Tai Chi and internal martial arts generally. And Tai Chi is the most well-known and well-recognized internal martial art. If I talk about internal martial arts, people might not know what I mean, but if I say Tai Chi, usually people have some idea.
That slow one where people do it in the park.
Yeah, basically it's like it's what you think of, old people moving very slowly in the park early in the morning in pajamas. That's kind of, that at least gets you in the ballpark of what internal martial arts look like, a certain facet of it anyway. So this was a school that taught internal martial arts, and which was new to me at the time. And basically it involves moving slowly, relaxing the body, breathing, paying attention to sensations and what's happening inside the body while you're training. And it was within a few months of starting to do this, I was in my room practicing one evening, as I often was, and just moving slowly and breathing and feeling my body. And all of a sudden, there was this moment when everything in the whole universe was completely different. And at the same time, everything was exactly the same. Nothing had changed at all. And the first thought that went through my head was, oh, that's what that was. That's what they were talking about in those old stories. That just happened.
Oh my goodness.
And I realized that this experience that people spend years and decades and lifetime striving after and seeking, and that I didn't even really believe in, had just fallen out of the sky and landed in my lap.
Wow.
Like, whoa, where'd that come from? And a number of things followed from that experience, but this is an experience that's been written about many times over the years, and it's been described as having three parts. There's the instantaneous awakening, which happens in an instant. There's the peak state, the transient peak state, which is always temporary. And then there's the residual awareness. It can never completely go away. I liken it to the portal of perception coming wide open, because that was what had changed. It wasn't the universe that had changed. My mode of perceiving had changed. The portal of perception was wide open, and it comes open in an instant, and then it stays open for a while. It gradually shrinks down, and that's the peak state, where the best way I can describe it is, it's kind of like, have you ever seen that movie Limitless? Where there's the little pill that unlocks the other 90% of your brain. And
no, you know what? I did see that movie, right? I know that one.
That it was very much like that. In my case, it was about 3 months. Sometimes it's only a matter of hours or
wow.
In my case, it was about 3 months like that, which is a good long run, except there was no little pill. I was just fully activated all the time.
That must have been incredible.
Complete, total mind, body, spirit alignment. I was aware of everything I was perceiving. I was aware of everything I'd ever perceived. And all of this knowledge that I didn't realize I had just came pouring out of my head, or pouring into my head is more what it seemed like. But like, I'd studied math and physics. I wasn't aware I knew anything about neural nets. put all these insights and theorems and conjectures about neural nets, just pages and I wrote down pages and pages of notes that were coming to me in this state.
Wow.
And another thing that happened was my martial arts skill dramatically increased during this time period. It was more like I gained access to the benefit of the previous 12 years of training that I'd been doing that had been latent. Because in martial arts, doing tricks, most martial arts are about techniques. You learn this technique and that technique, and you get really good at doing all the techniques. The techniques are like the gear. Like if you're an aficionado for skiing, say, or whatever it is, you know, you can buy all the best gear, but it doesn't make you a good skier.
Right, gotcha.
And what I'd really been doing, collecting all these techniques and tricks, I realized I was collecting all this gear, but I had no idea how to use it, because I had no idea how to fundamentally control my body.
Right.
And this was part of the awareness that came, that became unlocked for me when this experience happened. And there's the peak state where I progressed more in the first 6 months training this way than I had in the previous 12 years. But the peak state eventually faded because it can't stay open forever. The portal slowly shrinks, but it doesn't completely go away. It shrinks down to a spot, or even maybe a keyhole or a pinhole, but there's always that residual awareness that can never completely go away, that is the source of intuition. That's the source of an intuitive awareness that we can tap anytime.
Wow.
So I started out talking about these two different experiences and how they were very different, but there's a commonality. What this experience revealed to me, among other things, is that I had no idea how to use my body.
Okay.
Prior to this, I had no idea how to use my body. I thought I could use my body really well. I was fit, I was athletic, I could do all these tricks. I thought I knew how to use my body. I had no clue before this happened. I was like walking around like a total klutz in comparison.
That's so funny.
Because there is a whole different mode of movement that most people have no experience of, and almost nobody does, unless you've done internal martial arts or some kind of somatic movement practice, like contact improv or acro yoga or certain modalities that develop a similar kind of kinesthetic awareness, kinesthetic movement arts, I call them. If you've never done anything like this, you have no clue.
Right.
Because the truth is, we all are born knowing how to move and use our bodies naturally, but we become conditioned by society, largely by this coercive, traumatic process of indoctrination and enculturation that almost all of us have been forced to go through, otherwise known as school.
Right.
Where
PE.
it's not PE actually. It's the whole rest of the time. if you watch young kids, like kids 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 maybe, and just how they sit, they have perfect posture. If they squat, they have perfect posture. They stand, they move, they use their bodies naturally, just like a cat or a dog or a bird or a fish knows how to use its body naturally. All animals do, and we're animals.
Right.
But if you watch kids as they go through school, there's a progression like this: kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. So by the time we come out of this process, which is extremely stressful for most of us and not conducive to good physical or mental health habits, we've developed this extremely dominant posture where the whole front of the body is tight and contracted. which has all kinds of emotional and energetic effects. But then it, I mean, in a sense, it prepares us perfectly for adult life, where we usually have to spend a lot of time each day behind the wheel of a car, sitting at a desk, and doing the same kind of stuff. But point being, we're conditioned through society. We naturally know how to use our bodies perfectly, and we're conditioned through society to use them poorly. And so as adults, we engage in mind-body practices, things like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, to restore the natural movement of our bodies that we've lost. So I learned that there is a whole other way to move that doesn't rely, you actually use the muscles differently. We think of the body like a pulley and lever system, where the muscles contract and pull on the bones as levers. So we move around like this mechanical system of pulleys and levers powered by contraction. There's another mode of movement, of existence, where the muscles are actually capable of both expansion and contraction. And
right.
When we move onto the power of expansion, we move not as a mechanical pulley and lever system, but we move as a hydrodynamic system, kind of like a big bag of water, which we essentially are. And we move in a much more fluid and graceful and efficient way if we learn how to use our muscles in this way. And it's totally different. When this experience first happened to me, I had to relearn everything about how to move. It was like being a baby. I had to learn how to walk, how to stand, how to breathe. I would reach for like cupboards to open them and accidentally use too much strength and slam them shut, or I had to, or opening doors, or I literally had to retrain all of my movement patterns, almost as if I was starting over, just like a baby would.
Oh my gosh.
So I say this was a body awakening in that sense. That I learned prior to this, I had lived my entire life pretty much completely up here.
Right.
The
maths and
left,
physics and right.
Right. The left side of my brain had been my entire existence. This was when I started to inhabit all of this and realized that there was such a thing as spiritual awareness and somatic awareness.
That must have been quite a shock coming from the atheist background, atheist mathematical background.
Well, it was pretty out of left field. I'll just say that. So this is what has developed into what I call the internal path of mind-body practice, which is regulating body, breath, and mind together to manage state moment to moment.
Okay.
This is the function of mind-body practice, and honestly, I think some kind of personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice, and by mind-body practice I mean things like exercise, breath work, meditation, and the ideal mind-body practice is one that combines all of these into a single activity, so it's a good kind of multitasking.
Right.
I think some kind of personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice is something that we all need just to maintain baseline physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, wellness, and fitness. If you're not already getting this for yourself, you're depriving yourself, and you will have your health will be affected over the long term, just like not getting enough sleep or sunlight or vitamins and minerals, micronutrients. So that's why I call it a personal daily mind-body energetic hygiene practice, just like taking a bath or brushing your teeth, or daily mind-body multivitamin, just meeting your body's basic needs and minimum requirements for maintaining its state of health.
And getting the energy flowing and all of that.
Exactly. And regularizing your mind-body energy system as a whole so that it can function the way that it's designed to function, which is to maintain perfect health. so the internal path is mind-body practice, which also enables us to manage state moment to moment. And state is the basis of mood. It's the basis of performance. It's the basis of relationships. It's the basis of everything. It's the basis of
how you
health.
function in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. The not just state of mind, but state of the mind-body energy system as a whole. So that's what I call the internal path. And I teach both the internal path and the external path. The external path is, well, it has to do with personal systems.
Okay.
And this came out of the second major spiritual awakening that I mentioned, which I'll try to condense to stay within our expected time limit here. But this was a couple years later. I was living in Houston. I was in the real estate business. A colleague gave me a copy of the audiobook version of Getting Things Done.
Okay.
And the first time I listened to that, that was what triggered the second experience. And this, if for those who haven't heard of it, GTD is Getting Things Done is the name of a book and a whole body of work by a guy named David Allen. It's basically the modern day Bible of personal organization and productivity. And it's basically about having a trusted system outside your head so that you don't have to keep everything in your head, so that your mind can be free and clear for creativity and productivity. Mm-hmm. And it's what I call the trusted system outside your head is what I call a distributed cognition ecosystem, which is not a single thing or a single system, but it's a network of personal systems that you design to facilitate your life, to facilitate your decision making, to facilitate your habits, to facilitate taking the appropriate actions at the appropriate time, to facilitate your goals and your responsibilities. It's not about having some imposed external system that you have to follow that's more work than it's worth. It's about putting the right systems in place for you to support your ongoing cognitive processes. Because believe it or not, and I'm sure everybody believes it, your brain is constantly trying to keep track of everything regardless. Right. So sorting stuff, deciding, scanning the environment, deciding, going, what is this? What does it mean to me? What do I want to do about it? And keeping track of the results of that thinking, whether you have systems in place to assist it or not. And that's why a lot of us are going around with like a brain like a browser with 50 tabs open all the time, because our brain is trying to keep track of all this stuff. But short-term memory can only manage 5 plus or minus 2 bits of information at once, which means at most like 7 things is the absolute most you can keep track of at a single time. So the external path is about designing a robust and reliable distributed cognition ecosystem for information and action management to support your executive functioning process. And the difference between having tools in place and not having tools in place is like the difference between how much mental math you can do just in your head with no tools versus how much mental math you can do with the assistance of a pencil and paper versus with the assistance of a calculator or with a spreadsheet. The effectiveness of the assisted human brain is orders of magnitude greater, hundreds of times greater than the unassisted human brain. And that's why so many of us feel constantly stressed out and addled, and just like our brains are full because they're trying to keep track of everything because we don't have a reliable, trusted system outside our head.
It's like completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. And so this experience, which was triggered by reading this book, it's a great book that I've revisited many times over the years. This was when I realized that prior to this, I had no idea that I had no idea how to use my brain properly. I thought I did. I mean, I'd gone to graduate school in math and physics. I was pretty smart, but I really had, when it came to executive functioning, because this is another thing, I identify as neuroatypical, and I think really most of us are in some form. But being neuroatypical in some way doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It means your brain works a particular way. And just like you have to learn how to work with your body the way it's naturally designed, you have to learn to work with your brain the way it's naturally designed in order for it to function efficiently and effectively. And so also through conditioning from school, from family, because I mean, school doesn't teach executive functioning skills. If school assumes them, like if you have these skills, you'll do great in school. If not, sucks for you.
Yeah. Right.
And we don't learn these skills from our families either, because most families are extremely disorganized and dysfunctional. I know mine certainly was, and I was like a fish in water growing up. I had no idea.
I can only imagine in the Bible Belt.
Well, my family actually was pretty secular. Well, it was actually entirely secular. But I mean, by disorganized and dysfunctional, I mean just like not organized. Literally, like you have to have 3 pairs of scissors because you can never find one you need it because there's not a place it goes. So you have to hope there's just something floating around you need. If you can't find it, you go buy another one until the concentration builds up enough that you can find that thing whenever you need to. But then your physical space is so filled up with stuff that you have to, and a lot of people live that way. The physical clutter, the mental clutter, we're just hemmed in by it. So I did not learn executive functioning skills in that environment because it just wasn't there. And like a fish in water, I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Right.
So this was when I learned how to actually use my brain properly in conjunction with external tools and systems that I could design to support my natural cognitive functioning, and that I could learn to use consistently enough to trust that when something comes up that I need to take care of this, I know I can put it in my system, and my brain knows that it will come back to me at the appropriate time. So for now it's handled, and my brain doesn't have to keep track of it anymore. That's what having a trusted system is. Right, you close the loop. You close the loop for the moment. Right. And most of us have hundreds of open loops all the time that are draining our mental RAM. And also, it's the same mental energy reserves that we use for concentration, for empathy, for short-term memory, and for decision making. So if you say your mental energy reserves are drained by your short-term memory reserves are drained by constantly having all these open loops open, then you have less mental energy available for empathy, for decision making, for concentration. So point being, the external path is about having a trusted system outside your head, designing a robust and reliable distributed cognition ecosystem to manage the flow of information and action decisions through your life, and to store the results of your decisions in a place where you know that they'll come back to you at the appropriate time.
There's so much more I want to talk about. We're going to have you on again, because I want to learn about how you do this for your specific, because obviously it's different for every person. So I want to learn about that, and I want to learn about my particular issue is sticking to something like that. So I want to find out how you tackle that.
Well, I'd be happy to talk again. It's I know 30 minutes goes by really fast. It's not really enough. It goes by really fast. You're having fun.
It's true.
I'll just for now to kind of bring all this full circle. So what I do is I help ambitious professionals to apply the philosophy and principles of martial arts to self-mastery and life success. And specifically, that means optimizing your mind, body, energy system as a whole, which is the internal path, and developing a robust and reliable Well, actually, let me back up. That involves optimizing the mind, body, life, energy system as a whole, and learning how to apply effortless self-discipline in any area of life. Because my definition of self-discipline is the opposite of the normal definition. The normal definition of self-discipline is making yourself do stuff you don't want to do.
Right.
My definition is creating alignment within yourself so that the thing you want to do and the thing that's best for you are one and the same.
Wow.
And there are a couple of specific steps in that process, but essentially the specific things that I help people with are mind-body practice, developing a personal daily mind-body practice for health and performance, and personal systems, developing robust and reliable distributed cognition ecosystem for information and action management. And the process that I use for that is similar to the process that any coach uses. There's 4 steps, which are visioneering, getting clear on the ideal outcome, strategizing, working backwards in time to develop a plan, actioneering, putting systems in place to keep you on track and ensure that you take the appropriate actions at the appropriate time, and belief change, which is identifying and removing limiting beliefs. And belief change is an important part of sticking with something, because usually the reason we don't stick with something is because we change our mind. Part of us wants to do it, part of us doesn't.
Right.
Through belief change, you bring all your parts into alignment so that you 100% want to do something, or you 100% don't want to do that, and you 100% want to do something else.
That makes a lot of sense.
And habit formation is integral to the whole process. Because everything that we're talking about is a matter of habits. Mind, body practice, our habits, self-care, our habits, personal organization and productivity, our habits. So habit change is part of the process of actioneering, or how do you design your environment and your personal systems to ensure that you take the appropriate action at the appropriate time. And that's what the internal and the external path are about. The internal approach is aligning yourself from within. The external approach is designing an environment that's conducive to the results that you want to create. So some coaches focus more on the internal game, the internal approach, the inner game, the mindset, and that sort of thing. Other coaches focus on the external approach, take these steps in order to get this result. I focus on, I bring both of them together because they both rely on and complement each other. And using these tools, developing a mind-body practice and personal systems are just the first step to getting to a place where you can then more passionately and more abundantly pursue whatever goals you want to achieve. So mind-body practice, personal systems, and then achieving whatever goals you want to achieve are essentially what I help my clients with.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I can imagine how much more powerful it is to have both of those integrated to go after your goal, as opposed to just one or the other.
And I'll say one more thing, because I know a lot of people struggle with exactly the issue you mentioned, sticking with something.
Yeah.
Motivation has 3 components. There's internal necessity, meaning it's 100% alignment. It's a must, a personal must. You're 100% clear within yourself that it's something you want to do. External, internal necessity, social support, meaning there has to be other people involved besides you. It has to be someone besides you who knows whether you do the thing or not.
Right. Okay. Like accountability.
And, yes, accountability and involvement, and people who will know if you don't show up.
Right.
And environmental support. Your physical environment, your physical space, your personal systems have to be designed to support long-term consistency of that thing. So to stick with anything, that's really what you need to put in place is internal necessity, social support, and environmental support for whatever kind of motivation you want. And one last thing that I'll mention, because you mentioned wanting to learn more. There's actually a great way to learn more about what I do, which is I'm having an event next week. It's a mind-body mastery flow shop. It's a free 4-day series of interactive workshops where I teach all about my process and everything I do. So if you'd like to learn about mind-body practice, personal systems, optimizing your mind-body energy system as a whole, and applying effortless self-discipline in all areas of your life, essentially becoming a black belt in life. That's what that flow shop is about. And the link to my website, I'm sure we'll post it somewhere, but it's mindbodymastery.academy. That's where you can find all the information about that. Mindbodymastery.academy if you want to.
And if people wanted to get in touch with, if people wanted to get in touch with you, sorry for interrupting you there. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Facebook's a great way to reach out.
Okay, Facebook, perfect. All right, we'll put all that information in the description here, so people will know exactly how they can get a hold of you and get to your program there, your 4-day program. That's exciting.
Yeah, thanks. I think you'll enjoy it should you decide to come.
I think I would. Let me just make sure I visit my schedule and I'm there. Thank you so much, Dane, for coming on and sharing your story with us, sharing your wisdom. And I can't wait to have you on again, because I think it'd be really fun to continue this conversation.
Well, just let me know. I'm ready for part 2.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Everybody has a tale to tell. So what's yours?